Like to say hello and welcome to everyone who's joining us this evening. Thursday, it's the 29th of January, I do believe. Let's see, is that right? It is.
Yep.
Getting to the end of January. Wow. Good stuff. Hope you are in a warm place, safe from the blizzard out there. I was just telling Ryan over here in Santa Cruz, it's pretty nice. Let me check the weather here. I know Tim's over there in Carmel, so it's probably pretty good over there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. We've got 62 degrees Fahrenheit here, Santa
It is.
Cruz. So the sun's going down though, so it should cool off here pretty quick. But
It's 44 in the morning.
yeah, yeah, it's like almost as cold as my refrigerator.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh well, what are you gonna do? But hope you guys are doing well. Yeah, it's just just thinking today about what do you do? How do you stay motivated? I never forget when I went into business for myself. I had a buddy who was, you know, we were both employees. We weren't working for the same companies, but we were both, just employed. And I decided, man, I was sick of being an employee. I wanted to go into business for myself. So I did. I launched into my own thing, and my buddy Eric was like, man, he's like, if I worked for myself, I wouldn't get out of bed, till like 10 o'clock or something. I'm like, yeah, you probably shouldn't go into business. Because it's like, when you're the boss, you're in charge. I mean, it's up to you to motivate you, you know. And like, how do you do that, and how do you, and it's easy like at first because you're excited or whatever, and it's all new and it's fresh and there's the adventure of it all. But then that doesn't last all that long. I mean, pretty soon it's like it's routine. It's old hat. And then what do you do? You know, for me, it's like what I found really helpful is these audiobooks. It's like I really don't read much because it's just my setup isn't really conducive to sitting around reading a book. I enjoy it, but I just really don't have the time or the proper space to do it. Maybe in 10 years from now I will. But you get all these books on tape, audiobooks, and I listen to those. And the really cool thing about that is, there's pros and cons to everything. The pros are like, you can do it like anywhere, anytime. You can do it while you're doing something else, like driving, or just, if you're doing like mindless work, it doesn't really take any concentration. You can just have a book going and be learning stuff and getting ideas and stuff like that. The downside to that is that it's easy not to really pay attention. So I find that like I'll have to listen to a book at least a couple of times, to get the same kind of retention that I do from sitting and actually reading a physical book. But that's, but the great thing is, it's like you've got it and you can do that. You can listen to them over and over. And it's like, I find myself listening to some books, like, there's books that I've listened to 5 or 6 times. I've gotten like all the classic ones, like, I mean, you name it, right? Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill. I've got a few of his books, how to win friends and influence people, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, you name it, the whole list, the whole list of them. And like just about all of those books have great stuff, I mean, great nuggets of truth. Just about everything that I've ever read or heard or listened to, it's like there's some things in it that I don't agree with or I can't use. So there's always that, kind of eating the meat and throwing away the bones, sort of a thing, depending on who you are and your personality. Your mileage will vary, right? But one thing that's really true about this is that, man, these are like positive, like uplifting, upbeat information. And so the great thing about it is, like, man, I'm filling my head with like these positive things, and reminding myself, oh yeah, yeah, I need to remember to do that. Like, oh yeah, yeah, that's right. Don't forget that. To apply these principles, and and the ambient atmosphere in the world can be pretty bleak, man. It can be pretty negative. And it's like if you're watching the news or if you're listening to people talk about like political stuff or whatever, man. I mean, it's like it can be pretty much of a downer, and just like the state of the world. So that's the way that I find that it's easy to keep myself motivated by just um, listening to these books, books on tape, usually like business type related stuff. Right now, I'm listening to Never Split the Difference, Chris Voss. It's a great book, man. I'm probably listening to it for like the fourth or fifth time. I don't know. It's one of my favorites. That guy's just awesome. It's just got some great takes on negotiation and just listening, and like and it talks about like empathy, like what is, like, calls it like strategic empathy or something like that. Um, Great stuff. So anyway, that's something that I do. Kind of keeps me motivated, keeps me on track, keeps me thinking about my goals and staying out of the grinder, like, you know, whatever, the news of the day. How about you guys? What do you do, man? How do you motivate yourself?
My top recommendation, like right on that line, is like Peter Diamandis is my favorite. I have every book you mentioned on my shelf behind me, and they're great. And I revisit people that think in the same lane all the time. But Peter Diamandis was a good one that I noticed I got a good emotional uh, stability from, because like you said, we have nothing but negativity. We have technology going crazy around us, and we have a lot of news telling us how this is going to negatively impact us in all of these ways, all of this stuff rolling out, and how fast it is. And Peter Diamandis has always been outspoken in writing books like Bold and The Future is Faster Than You Think and Abundance. And The Future is Faster Than You Think is the first book that I read of his, and it's actually a quote in my email signature, because of all the books I've read, that's the one where I try to keep him in mind as I make these pivots in this tech world and this business world, and know things are going to come and outlive us, because he talks about how good the future is and the stats that we should be focusing on, and how we do need to ignore the crisis news network, CNN, and all of these sources that tell us to be afraid. And when you are in the state of fear, you either freeze or flight, right, or submit. These different things that happen, and you shouldn't have your mind in that. So being in audiobooks that tell you things are going to be all right, at least puts your body in like some homeostasis. You're not completely scared of the future. And when you listen to people like him giving real stats, him being a business owner who funds tons of other businesses across the world, and tons of other that has created businesses with tons of other people that are majorly influencing where this tech is going in the medical field, in the shopping field, in every major field that's going to affect our lives, bar none. And he talks about how he paints the vision of the future that isn't so negative and Wally, where we're all fat, rolling around, doing nothing because we become so lazy we can't do anything for ourselves. That's one vision. Look at someone else's vision like his and see if it doesn't excite you, the future that's coming, make you actually want to start learning how you can get it involved more in your system, like learning how to get involved with other business owners that think the same and how you can apply
Mm.
these forward thinking things and know that exponential change is coming. But here's these practical business ways other millionaires have been applying it to their stuff. And here's what's coming so you know how to prepare yourself. Like that, his stuff has been the best at my grounding in this future of what the hell is going to happen and where you're going. Uh, let's just keep listening to this dude because he's talking to some of those major dudes that are making these decisions, and he's sitting on panels saying, "Hey, don't you think this is going to be negative if this thing overtakes people's lives in these ways? Aren't you afraid of the impact your creation is going to make?" And hearing what these creators talk about and how they're trying to solve it brings us more at ease than hearing your friend tell you how one day they're going to have a chip in you, so be very afraid and react ugly to a lot of the policies and information you might hear. It's like just go check it out. It's pretty actually cool what's coming. It's not scary at all. It is, but don't be afraid.
Yeah, I mean, there. The fact is, like stuff's gonna happen in the world, and like technology will be developed, and it will be used for evil, as well as good, right? I mean, because people are people, and there's good people and there's bad people, So like, but you know, to be in fear, like you're saying, it's like to live in fear of what might happen because of whatever, some other people might do. It's like there's no future in that kind of a life, that kind of thinking, that kind of a mindset, and it's easy to get sucked into it, I mean, because, you do kind of have to be aware, what's going on in your environment, that's part of it. But really, what is your environment, is like the other side of the world, what's going on in China really my environment? Well, I don't know. I mean, there's different ways to look at that, right? I mean, it is kind of a world. It depends on what you do. It depends on, it's a world economy, depending on, what business you're in and stuff. But a lot of times the stuff, is like, not only does it not really affect me directly, but it's like I have no power over it. And that's even more important. It's like, if I have no control over something, it does me no good to spend my time thinking about it when I can be thinking about what I do have power over and what I can control, in my immediate vicinity, in my family and in my community and all that. Um, yeah. Anybody else?
Well, I don't necessarily have a way to stay motivated, but I mean, typically bills and overhead that kind of keeps me
There
going,
you
you
go.
know. I mean, you got to show up as a business owner. You got to show up somewhere if you got bills to pay. So, I mean, you don't really have a choice to stay in the bed if you're a business owner, and nor do you have a choice to stay in bed if you're not. Somebody in the house has got to get their ass up and go to work. So, I mean, you might as well own the damn business if you're going to be getting up and going to work anyways.
That's the way I see it, man. That's a good point,
I mean, unless you unless you did a tech business and we're doing a house for somebody who's in a tech startup and is retired at the age of 35, but like great for you, but that's not normal for everybody. So I mean, motivation is bills are coming, man. So
Right?
overhead and bills, that keeps me motivated.
Right. I mean, even if you've got like all the money you ever need, I mean, then what? I mean, you still don't want,
I think
still not
those
going to
people
stay in
want,
bed. You
yeah,
still want to get
those
up and
people
do
will have the
something.
real issues to deal with as far as motivation goes. I mean, you can only sit around and fish and drink beer and get fat for so long before you get bored and unhealthiness starts to set in. So, I mean, those are the people that really got to figure out how to stay motivated. because they don't have to. They're not financially motivated.
Yeah, good point.
I mean, they are, but not currently or in the moment.
Excellent point. Yeah. I remember when I was, I might have been a teenage, it might have been my late teens or like my very early 20s or something. We're hanging out with some friends, went to this guy's house, and we're hanging out at his house. And man, he had like an arcade, basically like arcade games and stuff in his room, in his like living room. He had the house, and it was like, he obviously had like some money. It was like our age, young, like early 20s or something. And I asked the guy, what do you do? What do you do? And he was like, oh, I've already done what I need to do. That was he had an attitude about it, So I don't know. I think he like had designed. So I asked my other friends, what's with this guy? I think he had designed a part for like a tank, that goes in tanks or something, And so he just this one part that goes in every like army tank.
You sure he didn't design a gasket for hinges that slips?
Maybe it was something like that.
That bastard's out there retired while we're dealing with his gaskets.
Yeah, that's the thing, make something, invent something for the military, the industrial military complex, man, you're pretty much set for life. If you can live with yourself. But, yeah. But yeah, it's a great point. It's like, if you're not motivated by money, then you got to find some other motivation. Or not.
Yeah, that's weird to me that he's like, I've done what I need to do. It's like, to me, that's cool, but it's reflective of like someone that lacks purpose. Because there are moments in my life in the past where I had all the money I wanted, and there was that emptiness because I had no purpose and no thing to do with it. And I soaked in all you could from just have fun and do whatever you want every day. Okay, if you do that 100 times over, and then it no longer brings you joy, what next? And that kind of shaped what my attention went to next of like a purpose, and my purpose shifted over time. At one point it was my dog. I didn't care about anything or no responsibility. I was living it by the day, backpacking it from place to place, but then my dog became responsibility. Now I care about this thing. I love it. I'll change where I live, change how I work, change if I go into a shop or not based around how I want my life to live and around him. And then having the grandchild around was a whole different feeling of like the baby and being able to walk with her. It's like, oh, that's purpose. A fun. I want to set aside investment fund. I want to learn about that. There's something I want to do. I'm going to set aside a budget, and now every day I have something I want to get up for and do something for. Like you said, the bills. Sometimes it's just that. Sometimes it's just an appointment at 9, so I'm going to get up at 8:59. Because sometimes you have no energy to do anything but what you're absolutely required to do, and other times like you can get up at 5 because you're in it and you have that purpose and grind. I don't know how to always keep it because I've noticed I've never maintained it. There's times where I'm in that element 5 a.m. every day, crushing it, posting about it, and then there's times where I wake up at 8:59 before my 9 a.m. meeting, and I can't tell you what the difference is in my mind or what I know or what I learned because I feel like I know all the same stuff, but we just seasonal, right? We're all seasonal. We got to give each other grace, got to give ourselves grace, and try to have systems in place so when we don't rise to the occasion of our summer self, that our business doesn't fall to like there's things in place to catch whatever we might slack on when we're down like that. That's what that taught me. It's like build things so it's not dependent on how you feel and what you're doing, or you won't have anything you can ever step away from.
It's a great point, man. Yeah, it really is. It's like, do you need to be motivated every single day of your life? Yeah. In my, in my pursuit of consuming these business books, I've heard a lot of different like takes. A lot of different opinions. I was talking about that Benjamin Hardy book. It's like 10x. 10x is easier than 2x. And they're talking about how the secret the secret to being really successful is working less, right? It's like it's not really doing more, it's doing less. It's figuring out all those stuff you're wasting time doing and just focusing on, the 20% that's getting 80% of the results and narrowing that down. And it's interesting because as you do discover, more like what you're designed to do and what you really love to do, you become more productive, you become more efficient, and it's easier to make money. And not only that, but from that perspective, it's like you can see even better what the next, 20% jump is, right? It's just like the same way of, if you're standing on the ground looking, you've got one perspective, but if you get in a building and go up to the second floor, you can see more. And if you go to the third floor, if you go to the fourth floor, if you go to the 10th floor, the higher you go, the more, you can see of what's going on. And personal growth is like that. It's like you really, can't even imagine where you might be able to get to from where you are right now. It's weird. But it's that same kind of a thing. And here, there's talking about how, like, oh yeah, the first thing I do is like I decide next year how many days I'm going to take off. And I take 190 days off, of the year. And then like those days that, I'm working, it's like, man, I'm killing it, I'm getting it done. It's like, that's awesome. That's an awesome approach, but it's all based on like, do you need to be like motivated every single day? Maybe you don't, maybe like there's a lot of days you shouldn't be, maybe there's a lot of days that you should be like just, recovering.
Agreed.
Absolutely.
I mean, I would also say that one way to possibly stay motivated is to maybe take a moment to look back and see where you came from. Like if it's a positive trajectory, then that should motivate you that you're doing something. So maybe taking a pause to look back and like literally track where you came from within the last year, 6 months or something like that, or even further, and wrap your brain around that. And that's kind of motivating, and that's assuming it's a positive trajectory. If it's a downward trajectory, then that could be motivating too. It'd be like, oh shit, I got to give myself, wow, I had plans to be here and I went this way. So I would say maybe taking a pause and looking back. Because some of the wins, you don't realize you won certain things until you take a moment to stop. So those small wins are kind of go unrealized, but they can help motivate you probably.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because that's another takeaway from like that same book I was just talking about. And they describe it as like the gap and the gain, right? You can measure things two different ways. You can measure like the gap, which is how far you are from like your goal or like perfection or whatever, which is an infinite distance that never gets smaller. Or you can measure your progress by the gain, which is like where you've come from, like what you're describing right there, and just being in that mindset of like measuring yourself against yourself and like what improvements you've made. And people tend to do the opposite of that. People tend to be like, oh well, I should be so much further along, but it's like if you're going toward the horizon, the horizon never gets closer. It's like it's always moving away from you at the same speed that you're moving towards it. and so there's no real satisfaction, and like you never like narrow that gap, you know. So yeah, that's one of the same like principles that they're talking about in that book.
I think it's pretty easy to do nowadays too, especially with all the social media stuff and the things that are recorded and time stamped. Should be pretty easy to go back and look at all your stuff, you know.
Exactly. Anybody here do any like journaling?
I did for a little bit, and I did recently read some of it. It was interesting, but I stopped doing that for a while. But it was interesting to look back at that, like last year's goals and stuff like that. It was fun.
Yeah, I've done that. I've done different versions of that. You always say you'll stay consistent. I buy a bunch of binders from a certain coach I see that performance, like do it this way, track your water, track your things. I've seen other people's versions from people they've bought from that, help them track different things. And all of them seem great. It's hard for me to keep up with any, along with all the spirals and notes, but that's a great thing, Daniel, that you said, like, just look back at whatever you have, because track that track that gap, right, from where you were to where you are, because then you'll realize. I remember I was beating myself up a lot, and we had whiteboards on the wall. In fact, I went to Home Depot and I bought those sheets that are 8x4. And when we were redoing that house in that room, instead of going and buying whiteboards that I had a lot of, I just bought 10 of those sheets, and I made the entire room whiteboard walls. And that room became a chaos to some people that went in it, but to me, I understood what was on the walls. And I remember one day, after years of writing on them, different sections for different things, I had a big plan for credit, business, LLC, growing things, setting a lot of things up digitally and physically. And I remember feeling real behind one time. And I remember looking back at the wall and just reading random stuff on it. And I saw that chain and I realized how much I had checked off. And no matter how far away I was from where I thought I needed to be in that moment, it helped me give myself like a little grace pat on the back, like chill out. Like you might not be there, but you never will. Like you said, the mountain's always going to be higher, and when you get to the peak, you'll want another peak. So just learn to enjoy where you're at and where you come from. Like that part really matters. How do you do that? Journal, your CRM, your social media, your friends. Just go ask them. They're a good source of confidence if you have the right friends. I just had a good chat with mine, and he definitely reinvigorated me. So it's good stuff.
Yeah, it's one thing I always tell myself or try to keep in mind is that I need to try to be content with where I'm at in the moment without being complacent. So just because I'm being content in the moment with things doesn't necessarily, I don't want that to either lead to or be a complacency mindset. I being content but not complacent at the same time, like understanding and being content without complacency. So it makes you feel a little bit better. And that's a hard line, balancing contentment
Yeah.
without being complacent. You get too you, you can get stuck if you're too content with circumstances, then you become complacent. So
This episode of the podcast is brought to you by GlassGadget.com. Showcase Innovations creates tools that help shower door installers be more efficient and save time. Check out GlassGadget.com for more information. Yeah, that's a really interesting dichotomy, really, in life, is like figuring that out of like always striving to be better and then still and being grateful for where I'm at. And holding those two things at the same time. You can do that. But you have to kind of separate yourself, into a couple of different components. And really, people are, it's interesting that we really are many people. I mean, like people like who have like a disorder, they develop this disorder where they like actually separate into different personalities. There's a couple of different names for that. But it's something that we really are. In reality, like we have these different personalities. It's like if you're in this situation, you call on kind of this part of yourself to manage that. And then if you get into this other situation, there's a totally different person, who comes out, to manage that. And without being really, schizophrenic or whatever, if you're psychologically healthy, it's just something that you just kind of roll with, and it shouldn't cause you too many problems. but yeah, it's really interesting how you're really not the same person you were 10 years ago. You see things completely different. You got probably different goals. I mean, some of them are probably the same, but a lot of them are probably not. You've probably changed your mind about a lot of things in the past decade. And so there, you have all these different facets. Really, is a probably better way to put it. Facets to your personality. Different angles. That you attack things from. It's like.
It's like a sales rep being able to turn it on, like you show up and knock on the door. As soon as they open the door, it's like you flip a switch and all of a sudden you may not be the nicest person in the world, but all of a sudden you are, same thing with yourself, because it's kind of how my dad is. He's not the most people person, but then all of a sudden when the phone rings or something like that, or when he knocks on the door and somebody starts talking, it's like, oh, you're human. But it's like that. You got two different modes.
Reminds me of like my wife. She's gonna be mad at me, man. She's like mad. She's mean. She's being mean, But then like a customer walks in, she's like, "Oh, she's the nicest person in the world, man."
Mm-hmm.
It's like, how do you do that? She does.
Holding two different mindsets.
Totally. Yep. And then as soon as that customer walks out, boom, she's right back to being mad at me again. It's great. I love it. But yeah, man, it's like, and Rob was talking about something earlier when he was talking about like having friends, other business people who have a similar take, is super important. Like this group really is that for me, probably more than anything else. I've been in networking groups. I'd like to find, another group, physical group, to get in and hang out with people, but it's interesting because it's like, it's interesting trying to make that transition from where you are now to where you want to go, and finding that new group of people who are doing, what you're wanting to do. But it's the old saying that like whatever, when the student's ready, the master will appear, or something like that. The teacher will appear. Kind of an old, I think it's a Buddhist saying.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems to be really true. It's like you as your perspective changes, it's like you seem to just run into other people who have a similar point of view, or it's just that selective attention thing where it's like you see what you're looking for, right? And if if you're looking for something negative, you find it. If you're looking for something positive, you find it. You kind of self-select for that, And that's one of the biggest challenges that I face is that uh, learning to collaborate more, because I've always been such a rugged individualist, and it's like I've always, taken such pride in like, yeah, starting things up and doing it myself and like being the one man band and all of that, and it's those skills are valuable. I mean, not everybody can do that, but that only carries you so far, and then you have to like, if you really want to move forward from there, you have to be able to collaborate with people, and that's a whole different skill set, and that's something I'm learning now, of like how to do that. So learning to be a little bit more social. And so the Chris Voss book is good for that, because it's like kind of teaches like the skills of like listening to people, really like, really shutting your mind off and like listening to what other people say. And there's like, you can learn like secrets about them if you just let them keep talking. They'll tell you, they'll tell you the secret to how to, to how to sell, to them, or how to, what their needs really are, whether you've got what they're looking for or not, but it's a winning thing, I mean, it's a kind of a maturing thing, of just pretty good at just getting out there and banging it out, and just brute force, like I can just make stuff happen, That's cool. But it's like it doesn't carry you very far, really. So
yeah, he really does teach the benefit of embracing the silence and letting things progress.
Yeah. That's true.
The one thing that's really worked for me since our business has grown is coaching. Now I'm a firm believer in coaching and multiple coaches. So financial coach, I've like bookkeeping financial coach that we meet once a month, HR coach for leadership coaching in the company once a month. And then I have like a whole business coach that we meet, well, weekly, a one-on-one coach, and then like group coaching. Actually, it's part of Ben Hardy's scaling program that
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. So coaching, for me, it works because that's what keeps me accountable. And there's people better at this than me that have better input and help you think outside the industry, and with different outside knowledge, different experience that help. Well, why don't you just try something totally, or what you wouldn't think is irrelevant because you see it every day, but just makes sense. So it's just interesting to have that. Plus, then you do have the financial accountability because you're paying these people every month, whether you follow the advice or not. So that's worked, and the benefits have shown, because it's the same thing. It's like looking back and seeing how far you've made progress and gain. But then you set these nice targets going forward, and in all sorts of different aspects, whether it's your financial or your leadership or just the health of the business, or where you want to be in a 3-year trajectory or 1-year trajectory, and what your personal goals are, your life goals or the business goals, and they all kind of start meshing together. So that's where I've kept it motivated more. Prior to coaching, I was always piling more into the business and making it more complicated. And this really helped me simplify things, and it got rid of all the distractions and all the noise, and really started bringing our focus in. And now we're a lot more streamlined and simplifying things. So that's helped.
Wow, I believe it. So, I mean, did you start out like, so where did you start with coaching?
started with the financial coaching. So it was like my bookkeeper, and then we brought on someone who did monthly coaching as far as like the health of the business and how to keep, cash flow healthy and how to keep more profit into the business and more financial awareness and sort of simple things like budgeting
Mm-hmm.
and, but being more profit resilient and planning for taxes and then just more tax planning. And then we got into more deeper stuff like opening a hold co for purchasing the building and got a little more in depth that way. Then it was into the HR and leadership, like how to deal with the day-to-day employees.
Mm-hmm.
And then I moved on to like the Ben Hardy one,
Wow.
where this was, it was after reading The Science of Scaling.
Okay.
I read that book a few times, and then I did the call with them and decided that was where we are going to go. Is let's look at doing a full minimum 10x on the company. So that's how it started. And I mean, I'm only a month into that one, less than a month into that one, but
Wow.
there's results in that already. So,
Yeah, I mean, listening to him and Dan Sullivan, talk about like that, like that whole 10x mindset was really like illuminating. I mean, this is like, I'm just this I think this year, I'm first as I was first, exposed to that. I just, I go down the rabbit trail of like, oh, listen to this, listen to this guy. This guy mentions that guy, so you listen to that guy. This guy mentions that book. They all kind of mention each other, and I got onto this one. And I was like, wow, man, the way he broke it down, like, it's easier to scale your business by 10 times than it is by 2 times.
and it actually is.
It
When
is.
you
I
start
mean,
setting the numbers that much higher and thinking and that
yeah,
scale, it's been that much easier as we start looking at how we're going to progress. Like we're not looking at leveling up a little bit and increasing the job quotient by like 2x. When we
right,
start looking at a 10x multiple, I'm not hiring another estimator. I'm looking at a business development team
mm-hmm.
and outsourcing this. And this is so much more weight off my shoulders because now my job is just to protect the brand and just be leadership. And it's not doing more work for me. It's actually doing more or less day-to-day work
Mm-hmm.
and finding the right people that are
Right. Who,
trained to do
not
this.
how.
It's who, not how.
Who,
Yeah.
not how. Yeah, dude, I'm a believer, man.
Oh
I'm a
yeah. And
believer.
once
It
we
just makes
started,
perfect sense because
and
it's like if you think about what what do you have to do to grow by 20%? Well, you just have to work 20% harder, right?
it's what are you
Sell
adding
sell
on?
20% more. Well, what if you want to grow by 10 times? Well, then you have to think about it completely different. You have to you have to completely reinvent everything that you're thinking about, And so it makes you like look at everything from a totally different perspective.
It did. And so like if we were doing 20%, it's what are you going to add on as residual work? So when we started looking at 10x, it was like, well, you can't, if you looked at, how much you would have to do in service work to increase it by 10x, or how much you'd have to do in showers to do 10x, or construction to 10x, it's just physically impossible.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're looking at what do you need to lose to make it work? And if you do like 80/20 rule. So we
Right.
like reformulated exactly what our business model is now to set a new floor and how this is going to work. So we're spinning off all our residential service work now. It's just showers, construction. That's it.
Yeah.
Simplify.
Yeah.
One signal. That's it.
Yeah.
Less. Doing more with less.
Yep. Yeah. And what's funny too is like as I'm gaining this information, a lot of things are saying it's like, oh, that's something that I do. A lot of these things are things that just I intuitively have always done. Is like, well, just take a different approach. And the whole thing of like of specializing, like I went from being a full service glass shop to like just doing shower doors. That's a perfect example of like this is the 20%,
Yeah.
that's working, and just shed the other 80%. But what I didn't get, what I never really got was like the who not how thing.
Right.
It's like, well, how do I do this? So it's like that's not the right question. The right question is like, who's going to do it? And getting the right person to do it, and then just like giving it to them, not delegating it, but just finding someone to take ownership of that whole thing, and so that I could focus on just what I do best, and what I want to do,
Yeah.
what I love to do. Find somebody else to do that stuff that I hate doing, but they love doing it. It's like it's what they live to do.
Because there are people that love to do what you hate doing.
They're,
That's me. That's my life. That's
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. That's a perfect
It
example.
started at one shop and they were like, can you do this for someone else? Can you do this for someone else? Hey, these other people want help with their CRM backend. Hey, these other office people have guys that don't, they just have to say, go create this and do this. I want this done. Like, you need to be able to just tell people with a vision and they understand your world enough that they can go create it because they understand the moving parts beginning to end of what's needed. And yeah, that's absolute right thinking. Hard to do, hard to get in that mindset. That's awesome. I can imagine why you're having a success, Ryan, how you have multiple coaches and multiple input and multiple accountability partners. Because like when you hire a fitness trainer, it's like that's some accountability, but it doesn't always work. But I imagine if you hired four different ones with four different techniques, there's no way you fail at someone knocking on your door, getting you up and getting you into the groove you need to be in that you committed to. So that's kind of cool. That's awesome. That's funny how you've overloaded yourself so much on what someone else would be like. How do you have the time for that? It's like, no, you don't understand. Because I've done this, I now have the time for this and more. It is doing this that gave me the time, the strategy, the thinking. Because saying 10x over 2x is hard, but for me, the only way I know how to apply it in my life without coaching outside in different elements, which is good. I have a good network of other people that do what I do that can give me their take on their model and what they're seeing. For me, it's like leads came in, I can handle one. How do I handle if 100 came in? That's a different kind of thinking, different kind of system you have to build, different kind of automation. How do you maintain that? What if these other variables happen? Well, now you have to think in that way. And who the hell's going to go build that? That's where I come in. Like, that's my sweet sauce is like, oh, you have this crazy idea and you need help with that back end systematic part. I love that world. But that front end, who's going to go out in the field and knock on those doors? You need a different human being that would love that. Who's going to go install and implement it, design it, measure it? Like different human beings that you could say, I need that done and go. But it's cool when you find your sweet spot because I found mine helping y'all with that stuff that y'all absolutely hate, and I love that y'all hate it,
Yeah.
and that I love it because that's the community you want. A bunch of people that you can lean on to say go do that, and they're gonna get it done
Yeah.
and trust it. And man, that's a cool. I remember you trying to give us the contact information of that coach. Uh, One of the coaches you were trying to recommend to us.
Yeah.
What was her name?
Kim. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I moved on to a different one now, but it's same principle goes even with one of the ones I'm using now. It's like
Mm-hmm.
they had told me too. Tiger Woods doesn't have a golf coach. Tiger Woods has a putting coach, a swing coach, a nutrition coach,
Right.
right? Like you don't have just a generic coach. Like you have different coach for each different mantra of your game, right? So you
Yeah.
specialize in different avenues.
That makes sense. And most people stop at one. They're like, oh, I got a coach now. It's gonna fix everything. It's like, no, this might fix that portion, but you should probably look into these other things. That's a good. I've never thought of like multiple things. I was just in one big coaching community for a while. That was very, very helpful for me. And now, yeah, all the different groups, even the other marketing companies that instead of seeing them as conflict, a lot of the other ones I work with now directly to help them satisfy their customers, even if it's not like under my umbrella of me. And it's the same way us we help each other shops that might even be competitors in our same city, figure out how to do their business better, because it's not about like us, it's about serving the customer the best. And like
Right.
it's cool we all think about that physically and locally and digitally in this universe, because that's we're in the right community all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a big mindset shift once you start wrapping your head around it. Took a while. I was nervous because it's a big outlay of money every month.
You're right. Yeah. How am I going to afford it? But really, it's like, how can you not? How can you not do that? I mean, if
Well,
you're,
and then when you start talking about when you start growing the company about losing divisions and you're going to scrap that, like that's your cash flow that you start talking about. That's, there's nervousness behind that too, right?
yeah,
But you prepare for it, you start seeing it through, and lo and behold, it starts to work out. I mean, you prepare what you can, and things just sort of simplify. And well, you know what? Morale actually gets better too, because now you don't have your shower guy going out changing IGs who's then on a lift on a construction site trying to prepare for everything. He's just more task oriented too. So
right.
things are better. They're happier. They're systematized better. And you task the right people to do the right things and let them own the system. It's nice.
Yeah, one of my favorite things about being a glazer was always just like you go to a job and it's like they send you a truckload of material and some paperwork, you know. Nothing comes with instructions. I mean, there may be specs, there may be, drawings like just to tell you the sizes of things or whatever, but there's no like instructions. Like you got to figure it out, And then especially as a glass shop owner, you have a customer ask you to do stuff. It's a continual thing of like getting jobs that you don't know how to do, and you say yes, right? And you say yeah, we're going to do this. We're going to install the system we've never installed before, never even seen it. And you figure it out, you bid it, and it's like you try to bid it a little fat, because there's going to be some learning curve, and so you try to account for that. And maybe you do a good job at accounting for that, maybe you don't. It varies from one thing to the next, but it's like you're always like out on the limb. And that's where you learn to live, right? Because it's like that's what you do. That's what we do. We're glass shop. We're glass shop owners, And it's so conducive to being like an entrepreneur that can really grow and really can go big, because you're comfortable. You're more comfortable than almost anybody living in that space of like just taking risk and just you're saying yes to something you don't know how to do yet. And it's like, yeah, by the time we get there, I will have, the know-how that I need to do it. And I just have the confidence to know that I will. And that's awesome, man. I mean, it's a fun way to live, I mean, it's not for everybody, obviously, but it's for me, man. I mean, I like it. It really keeps me young. It keeps my mind sharp. It keeps me in the game. And it's like, really, I mean, I really have everything that I want. But I'm still here, so I might as well do something. I mean, and it's like, why not like swing for the fences, Well, why go out and try to get a base hit, man? Why not just swing for the fence? I mean, what's the worst that could happen,
Oh,
Strike out a few times. That's how I'm gonna approach it, man. I'm just going for it, People think I'm crazy. They think I'm crazy already anyway, It's not like they're gonna start thinking I'm crazy, Anybody who knows me knows I'm crazy. But yeah, that's cool. Thanks for sharing that, Ryan, man, because that's something I haven't pulled the trigger on yet, is like hiring a coach, man. Dude, it's crazy. It's crazy how like big of a step that sounds like to me. But I don't think I'm alone in that. I think like
Start with
Everybody
one.
feels like that. It's like, oh man, really? I mean, because they're expensive, but it's an investment, right? It's not a cost. It's an investment.
It's an investment. Yeah. Start with one though.
Yeah, start with one. Don't go to five right away.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, good stuff, man. All right, cool. Well, thanks for showing up, you guys. It means a lot to me that take time out of your day to come hang out and chat about stuff, man. It's I get a lot out of this. So yeah, if there's nothing else, let's wrap it up, and we'll come back again next Thursday.
See you next week.
Good night, you
All right.
guys.
See you guys.
Bye.